live on YouTube. I just got confirmation. We're live on, we're not live on Instagram yet, but we will be soon. We're live on LinkedIn, so that's good. And then now we're finally live on Instagram. So now we got Instagram in the house as well. We can kick this thing off properly. First of all, hello. My name is John Guyton, and this is Motivation on Demand. If this is your first time here, welcome. If it's not your first time here, welcome back. This is what we're doing. You know how sometimes rappers, the freestyle artists, they'll say, just give me some words. Put some words in the comments and I'll do a little freestyle. Yeah, I'm not doing that. What I am doing, though, is what we call motivation on demand. I'm going to do a 3 to 5 minute talk, motivational. I'm going to use your words. I'm going to use your requests. So if there's something that you want to hear, if there's a message, or a statement, a problem, a challenge, just say it in the comments. If it's just a word, you can do that too. Just put a word and I'll work the word into the talk. No preparation, no, nothing like that. So, that's what's set up. You know, I'll just have to remember these this time. I usually have my notepad to write the words down, but we're going to commit it to memory today. So now's the time for you to get down in the comments and give me a word, give me a phrase, give me something, and I'll take that and do something with it. So yeah, that's that. Yesterday it was what was it? Peanut oil and knowing when to stop. That was it. Yeah, peanut oil and knowing when to stop. Also, Ethan, can I request my glasses so I'm not squinting like a ridiculous person during this live? Thank you very much. Get in those comments. Give me a word or two. I just need a word or two, you know? Otherwise, it won't be motivation on demand. It'll just be motivation. Oh, yeah. Now we're cooking with gas. Boom. A good deal. All right. What do we got? What do we got? All right. And good morning. I think it's still morning in the East Coast. Yeah, good morning in the East Coast. Good morning in the West Coast. Well, it's morning everywhere in the United States, at least. Overseas, we don't know. Shout out to Tim, who's in France at the moment. Hope everything's well. All right, a few more seconds, and then we're going to get this thing rolling. So if you've got a word, let me know. Put it on down, and we can rock and roll with it. And if not, well, it's gonna be a fast live. Oh, okay. We've got our first word: misunderstanding. Ooh. I understand the word. Okay, so we got misunderstanding. All right. Good. We can rock with that. We can work with misunderstanding. Does any others, throw them in. And you know what, Ethan, if there's others during, right, like after I start, just toss them in and I'll try to work them in. So right now I got misunderstanding, but if you throw something else in and I see it, I'm going to do my damnedest to get it in there. But now it's time to work. An old coach of mine said a phrase to someone, and that someone said the phrase to me, and it was really impactful. It said, people will never know what you're thinking unless you tell them. Let me say that again. People will never know what you're thinking unless you tell them. And make no mistake about it, we've got a problem right now in society. And the problem has to do with one specific word. You ever seen the news and Typically, it's in politics. One person says something and the other person says something. You got two pundits going after each other. And the one says, hey, you took my phrase out of context. You took what I said out of context, out of context, out of context. There's so many instances where people say, you've taken what I said out of context. So is that a misunderstanding? Well, sort of. The one word that is the root of one of the problems, main problems we have in society today is context. Here's the fact that in 99.9% of those cases, there was actually no context to begin with. There was never any context ever. And so when you say something without context, you leave it to the other person to interpret that. Now, some people do this as a strategy. I'll say a thing, and if you interpret it favorably, well, good. And if you don't, well, then I can come back and say you've taken it out of context. When in actuality, you never included context in the first place. So if you want to limit misunderstandings in your life, if you want to make sure that you have credible and fruitful communication with business associates, with family, with friends, remember this: context before specifics. Context before specifics. Now, otherwise, there's a funny skit by Key and Peele. If you haven't watched it, you got to go see it. It's one person is sending a text message to another person, and one person is, hey buddy, how's it going? Want to hang out? The person receiving the messages, I don't know if it's Key or Peele, I get them mixed up. But the other person receiving the messages is receiving the message in a tone entirely different than the way it's intended. Entirely different. So by the end of this conversation, one person is saying, hey, you want to go out? Oh, I don't care. This, that. The other goes, I don't care. And by the time, it's a skit. But by the time they get together, one is, hey, buddy, and one's got a bat, ready to go to war. And this can happen when folks don't follow a simple set of rules when it comes to communication. And one of them is, when in doubt, dial it out. I learned that from Thomas K.R. Stovall, a friend of mine. When in doubt, dial it out. Meaning, in today's day and age, lots of misunderstandings come from text message. They come from a message, because when you get a text message, you get to imply the tone. You get to imply a lot of things. There's a lot of data that's missing from a text message. There's a lot of things that you can't understand. I can say shut up multiple different ways. If I say, oh, shut up versus shut up, felt different, didn't it? Text message fails to give us that additional data. So, and good morning to you too, Grant. It's one of those critically important things to make sure that when you're texting, here's the rule: when in doubt, dial it out. Which means if you're texting with somebody and it's all fun and games, it's positive, it's compliments, it's transactional, like, hey, we're meeting here at 3:00. Text message is great for that. But when you're working through something sensitive, when you're talking about something serious, when there's feelings that aren't so positive, when it's something, maybe you got offended or you hurt your feelings, that is not a good medium for that. When in doubt, dial it out. Actually have a real conversation. Now, for you young folks, we used to do this. We'd actually have real conversations. We'd have conversations with each other. We'd talk and we'd say, hey, this is what I've got going on. This is what you said, and this is how I reacted. And we had that conversation. But we've been missing that in today's day and age. So remember, context before specifics. Don't leave it to chance for the other person to interpret what you've been saying. Also, remember, other people aren't going to know what you're thinking unless you tell them. So instead of biting your tongue, instead of building up and attacking a straw man, instead of filling in the lines and making assumptions about what an individual means or what an individual intended for you to receive, find out. Now, this is my quote coming up. Don't freak out, find out. Something I live by. It's part of the cycle accountabilities. When something goes awry, if you hear something, if something's just not right, instead of freaking out, I go into finding out. See, When you have a mindset that says, look, I want to figure out what's going on, now you're in this inquisitive mode. You can ask the right questions to get the right answers. Hey, what do you mean by that? Hey, say more about that. Did you mean to say this or did you mean to say that? Let me get the detail, especially with those that you love, especially with those that you work with, especially those that you have to spend time with on a normal basis. Don't sign your friends and family up for things that they didn't say. If it's a bad assumption, you owe it to yourself and to them. You owe it to the relationship to find out instead of freak out. I hope that anybody I'm connected to, if I say something to you and it rubs you the wrong way, I hope that you dial it out. I hope that you, instead of freak out, I hope that you find out. People have fought and died over misunderstandings. Pretty serious scenario. It can get out of hand really fast. One person says something and they interpreted something else, and then they reacted and they interpreted the reaction, and then they say something and they say something and they say something. It happens between countries. It happens between companies. It happens between coworkers. It happens between spouses. It happens between parents and children. It happens everywhere in almost any relationship, except for the relationships that put context before specifics, except for the relationships that don't freak out and instead find out, except for the relationships that give each other the benefit of the doubt to say, you know, I'm going to assume that you didn't mean to offend me. I'm going to assume that you didn't mean to hurt my feelings. I'm going to assume that you didn't mean to put me down, because I don't know about you, but I don't have friends that intentionally hurt my feelings. I don't have friends that want to put me down. I don't have friends that want to talk down to me. I don't have friends that want to belittle me. So if I hear something that doesn't sit well with me, I know it's an opportunity to understand. It's an opportunity to find out. It's an opportunity to learn what they meant. Lots of words in the English language, lots of ways to say a thing, lots of opportunities to misunderstand, which means it's our responsibility to find out what we actually meant to say, what we actually meant to do. Now, if you live by this, I promise you one thing: those misunderstandings will fall by the wayside. The only way that you have a misunderstanding is if you fail to understand in the first place. You didn't even try to get the answer. Now, of course, this is assuming you have two willing parties, but we're talking about friends, we're talking about family, we're talking about coworkers and co-founders and people that you interact with. And the rule that I have is, if you're not willing to have credible conversation, if you're not willing to do that, then there's no reason for us to talk in the first place. Conversation is made for us to transact, not just in business, but in life, in relationships, fun things, serious things, critically important things, family matters, business matters. Communication is critical. And so, therefore, it is also critical for us to communicate in the best way we can. Yeah, pretty good timing on the ending there. All right, folks, that is it. That's it. That's Motivation on Demand. I hope that it was good for you. It was a lot of fun for myself. You know, I never know what I'm going to say until I get the word or the group of words to put them together. So it's kind of a fun exercise for me. This was Motivation on Demand. My name is John Guyton, and I'll see you tomorrow. We're going to do this again. We're going to do this again. And I hope you're here when we do. At this point, you just got to catch a brother live. Now, normally I would pretend to write until the live stream goes out. But in this case, I don't have my pen and paper, so I can't pretend to write. So I'm going to pretend to be on the phone until we're done. And we are done. So thank you for attending this session of Motivation on Demand, and we'll see you next time. Hold on, I got to take this.